recording. Okay. So this morning we're talking about supply partnerships, all right? And by supply partnerships, I mean it should actually tell you what to expect. So when we talk about supply partnership, or when we talk about supplier, I'm sure something comes to mind. I mean, you can appreciate who the supplier is, right? So when you hear supply partnerships, what are some of the thoughts that comes to your mind? What are some of the thoughts that comes to your mind when you hear supply partnerships? All right, Emmanuel.
Yes, sir. What comes to mind is a relationship between someone who supplies a good or service to the person receiving it.
Yeah, pump up a
One
little.
thing that comes to mind is. Pardon?
Yeah, so pump up a little bit. Let's hear you a little bit. Your tone is down.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. I was saying that what comes to mind is a relationship between someone who delivers or offers his goods or service or product to someone who receives it. So a typical example that comes to mind is.
Okay, great point, Emmanuel. So when you hear supply partnership, which groups, as you're talking about, which groups come to mind? Which groups come to mind? Identify some of the suppliers of a business.
Okay, I know of Epson. They supply packages and printers and what have you for companies who make them. So they are mostly supplied to most of the corporate companies.
Okay, so in terms of suppliers, what kinds of or what types of suppliers can we talk about? Suppliers of what can we talk about? Any other? I mean, who can add up to? Okay, William.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, William.
We can talk of supplies of raw materials, as in the raw materials the company uses to produce its products or to.
Okay. All right. So the raw materials as input to product making or the service making. Okay. What else? Thank you, Emmanuel, William. What else are we talking about? Logistics supplies. Okay. So by logistics, what do you mean? Can you break it down? And Gloria says human resources supplies. Excellent. That's a good one. So yes, logistics, Malik, I'm sure you mean logistics in terms of maybe what do you call the transportation logistics in terms of tools and equipment. Okay, good. And Gloria, human resources, you're talking about the personnel, right? The personnel. Okay. Emmanuel, what else you want to add? Emmanuel, you're on mute.
Okay, I wanted to say supplies of service.
Supplies of service.
So IT personnel, web assistants.
Excellent. So technically, okay. So is it Fapoma? Fapoma, yes. Fapoma, yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. And please, I said service supplies.
Okay. Okay, so service supplies. So yes, just like we've talked about. Yes, so technical services. Let's say repairs. All right, repairs, stationery. Already as saying stationery. CRM softwares, like probably say CRM software. So, yeah, so anything that organizations don't make or is not their core competence within, but they outsource for someone to do it. That's what we're talking about. So we're talking about the supply that comes into the business or what the business receives as an input into the entire organization. So we're not only talking about products and services, which is the raw material input, which is the first thinking of the supply. That's great. But we're talking about every other services or product that an organization receives in the making of their product and services. And that includes Sometimes it even includes auditing, for example, all right? Because some companies or most companies have to, outsource, or they have to actually, contract audit services or accounting services or legal services sometimes, all right? So we're talking about all these as supply. So we say that supply partnership actually includes all these things that we're talking about, all right? But the thing is that in organizations, some of the supply partnerships arrangements may be managed by different kinds of department, all right? For example, if you take maybe a legal supplies, for example, all right, or legal services, it may not necessarily be managed by the RM team or the relationship marketing team, all right, but it could be managed by what they usually call public, what do you call public relations department, all right. So the public relations department may be liaising with a legal, supplies, all right, but because the fundamentals of what do you call a relationship is the core mandate of RM manager or of an RM staff, you probably will have something to do with in terms of perhaps giving capacity on how such relationships must be managed. All right. So if you look at this particular slide, what is this current slide, for example, you would see your typical company or a demonstration company, which is the company, having what we call, horizontal as well as vertical relationships with institutions, with other companies. So the supplier A, for example, here, supplier B, supplier C, are actually, denoting, what do you call organization. So take supplier B, for example, as your core raw material supply, all right? But then you have supply A, perhaps as your personnel supplies, or let's say, job agency that actually recruits personnel and supplies to your business, all right? And then supply C, for example, could be an agency that supplies logistics. Not every company owns their own vehicles, all right? Some companies actually outsource vehicles from vehicle rental or vehicle hiring companies, all right? So they would perhaps be supplying you with vehicles, all right? Supplier B would be supplying with the raw materials for the product manufacturing, all right? Supplier A would be the one supplying with the personnel, security, accounts, marketing, or sales, if you actually outsourcing these, or if they're not permanent, staff in your organization. So when we talk about supply partnership, don't think about only your raw material supplies. That's one. But you're looking at the entire supply zone. Who is supplying me what, and how should that relationship be formed? Don't forget, we discussed from the beginning of this lecture the types of relationships that we have. And we asked ourselves, in these relationships, what are our roles? Are we the supplier or we're the consumer? Are we the customer or we are the, the production company? And each role that you identify will tell you, the motivational investment that you make in there. Now, surely, if you have suppliers, know that they make your business work. So if you have, for example, a supplier as in job agency, they're supposed to supply with personnel in order that production will go on, in order that the service will go on. Now, if you do not have a continuous relationship with them, you probably would not get a best of staff, all right? But you want to have a relationship where they could actually supply with the best of staff, can update you with staff, what do you call information, whether somebody is not well or somebody is well, and all those things, all right? So you have to have a broader mind about supply partnership. That's what we say in RM, the relationship is not, dyadic. It's not only company customer relationship, but it's a multiplicity or multifaceted, relationship where you have beyond the dyadic relationship between you and the customer, you have other relationships with other people. And that's what we're talking about. So on the vertical axis, you can also see a relationship with a customer, which is what marketing traditionally had been focusing on. marketing traditionally had been looking at relationship as a dyadic, framework or a dyadic character where the firm has a relationship with a customer. But in relationship marketing, which is the more modern thinking of marketing, we're saying that the relationship goes beyond you and the customer. It's about you, the customer, the other suppliers, and the other institutions in equal measure, and saying that the quality concept that we talk about in marketing goes beyond the quality of the product, but quality of the relationships that you have as well. Now, on the horizontal plane, you also have relationships with collaborators, all right? And that could mean competition, that could mean relationship with your competitors, all right? And then relationship with indirect or non-competing organizations, okay? So if we talk about relationships, supplier relationships with competitors, who can tell me a scenario where an organization would have a relationship with their competitor as a supplier? Who can tell me? Okay, Emmanuel. Fapoma, your hand is still up. Is it the old one or you have a new thing to say? Okay, Emmanuel, go on.
So this is the old one. Sorry.
Okay. Emmanuel, let's go on.
Yes, sir. Samsung has a relationship with Apple in that they provide them with the screens. However, they are in the same competing market.
Fantastic. So there are some suppliers who are your competitors, but because they have competency in providing some essential services, all right? For example, Apple does not make, Apple designs and conceptualizes how their product should do. Samsung has, manufacturing capacity. They have the ability to make, all right? It does not mean that Apple cannot make. Maybe strategically, because of managerial decisions, strategic decisions, they think they can reduce cost and still make the most gains by subletting their manufacturing arm. And I'm sure there will be other things that they could actually manage or make as well. But from a strategic managerial decisions, they think they're better off outsourcing some components in the entire system to other companies. And so Samsung with that capacity, and remember that there could be other manufacturers, but of course, Apple may think Samsung has the capacity, but has the best capacity, although they are competitors. But of course, there will be some agreement signed, like protection of trade secrecy, intellectual, intellectual, intellectual property, agreement in place, etc. So they cannot actually, remake made for Apple. So they sign all this agreement and then ask Samsung to produce those versions for them. All right, they would contract other organizations or companies also to produce. But at the same time, Samsung has, a manufacturing of phone, arm. So they are in competition, yet they are partners. All right, of essential supply. Now, in that set of arrangement, it's called collaboration, or we call it, horizontal relationship. Do you get it? Because they are of the same capacity. Now, in vertical relationship, usually the company that is sourcing or in relationship with these entities, like the customer and the other suppliers, the relationships are not even, or the sizes are not even. Sometimes, the company is bigger in size and in so many others. So when you look at suppliers, always the companies have upper hand, over their suppliers, either in terms of, size, share size, or in terms of wealth, for example. So they're able to bargain. Now, when it comes to horizontal relationships, they are almost like a relationship of equals, all right? They have their own capacity, they are their own bosses, all right? And the company decides to share some competences, with them, or contract some competences with them. So majority of times, the horizontal relationships are mostly relationships of equals, not necessarily in terms of size, but in terms of knowledge or in terms of capacity, for example, all right? So they're in their individual fields, they are masters of their individual things that they do, but their service is contracted by the company, okay? Okay, who can cite another example of horizontal relationships, collaboration? Supply relationship with your peers. Gideon.
Okay, so we can talk of University of Ghana and the other universities.
Fantastic. So the University of Ghana and the other universities are in a horizontal relationships where University of Ghana would say, okay, I'm full, I can't take more, but of course I've accepted these students. Can I pass them on to you? So University of Ghana does that in a horizontal relationship with other universities. Great job, Gideon. Thank you. Who else? Who else? Who else want to say something? Now I'll give you a typical example. When I was coming back, when I was going, I flew what do you call KLM. I always fly KLM, but coming back, Amsterdam or Schiphol is actually locked because they're on COVID lockdown, and so they've stopped all flights. Now I had to quickly call Air France, which is a partner airline to KLM. You've heard what do you call? I think they called Star Alliance or so. I think that's what they called. Yeah. In airlines, they have an arrangement called code sharing, and code sharing is whereby one airline is full and can actually pass on, what do you call, customers to the other. Or there's a route that one particular airline doesn't actually fly, but they can still take on customers and then pass it on to their partner airlines. All right. So majority of these airlines are in such arrangement, like British Airways and American Airways are in what they call One World Alliance. All right. And I think KLM and Air France are in what we call Star Alliance. There are others. All right. Now, so they when I called in, they said, okay, we can put you on Air France, our partner airline. Why didn't they say they will put me on BA? It's because it's not they're not partners. So they put me on Air France. Now, by flying Air France, I got access to internet like 24/7, so to speak. All right. Throughout the flight, there was connectivity. So almost about 5,000 or 4,000 miles away from the sea level, or whatever the measurement is, I could actually send messages. All right. But I couldn't do that on KLM when I was going. So in my mind, wow, this is cool. And I'm now contemplating flying Air France from now on. You get it? Now, that is some of the disadvantages that you can actually have. The competitor that you share that relationship with could end up maybe sometimes taking over your customer, especially when the customer sort of feels some satisfaction after consuming the competitor's product that you directed them to. All right. Hotels also have the same arrangement or similar arrangement. Now, you book in hotels, sometimes when they're full, they will suggest other hotels and tell you, oh, we can put you on, these hotels if you're happy with it. So when you go ahead, now you become, a customer to that hotel. If you have a very good experience, you may end up switching to that hotel. All right. And so many other, arrangements. Sometimes the arrangement could be, of maybe international character. For example, you are ordering a product from, let's say, Nigeria. All right. Now, the Nigerian firm realizes that you are in Ghana, for example, and they have a partner in Ghana that actually supplies similar product. Because of, what do you call taxes and other costs, they can refer you to the Ghanaian partner and say, can you supply this product on our behalf? All right. They will do that and they will share revenue, okay? Depending on the arrangement that they have. Now, you may end up knowing, oh, actually, I didn't have to order from Nigeria because there's a Ghanaian company that actually does the same thing. Then you end up ordering from the Ghanaian company afterwards. So in terms of horizontal collaboration relationships, it works perfectly for each and every partner's advantage. But the disadvantage is that your customer may end up going to the competitor. Sometimes also organizations actually run supply relationship by service. For example, you are, you know, you got your car from, let's say, which brand can I use? Let's say Mercedes, all right? But Mercedes do not have a garage here. So they sent you the car from Germany. And when there was something wrong, they asked you to maybe take the car to Kantanka, all right? So Kantanka is the service arm of, you know, Mercedes in Ghana, because they have some service arrangement, and say all our Ghanaian customers, when they have an issue with their car, can send their car to Kantanka for repairs. Then you go to Kantanka and you are exposed to other products of Kantanka, and you're actually, I think I like what I'm saying. So you end up having a relationship with Kantanka, and eventually not buying from what do you call Mercedes again in Germany, now buying from Kantanka. So when it comes to horizontal relationships, there are quite a number of benefits as well as challenges or threats for companies that actually exist in such relationships. Okay, Gideon.
Please, sir, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
Please, I want to ask that does a company horizontal relationship limited to only competitors?
No, non-competitors as well, and other indirect, company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You want to give an example?
No, sir. I wanted to find out whether it's also limited to only competitors.
No, not competitors alone. So, and Gideon's question actually brings down the what do you call the question? Apart from competitors, who else do you think companies can have horizontal relationships with? Horizontal relationships. Yeah. Remember, we're saying that an organization may be offering another organization a kind of service, but they are of the same, what do you call, character. I mean, they are bosses in their own field. It may not necessarily be an input, a kind of service, or a service that you're actually contracting in making your product. But we're talking about a service that perhaps complements your product itself. And this particular instance that we discussed is a complementary, service. Who else can tell us a non-competitive, horizontal relationship? A non-competitive horizontal relationship. Sorry, we can't hear you. Yeah, Gideon.
Please, can we talk about two countries? Yeah.
Yeah, expand it. Let's hear you.
Let's say please let somebody help.
Yeah, you can come back. That's all right. I mean, it's all right to think through and come back again. When you mentioned countries, my thinking was they probably will be on same competition. I mean, they could be a competitor, in relationship. But refine your thought and come back. All right, Gottwell.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Gottwell. How are you?
Very fine, sir. So, for a non-competitive example, I'll take KFC and Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So KFC is one of the highest, what I say, consumers of Coca-Cola.
Excellent.
And Coca-Cola, yeah.
Excellent, fantastic example. And this is critical thinking, all right? I mean, KFC does not do beverages, all right? They don't do fizzy drinks, all right? There's no way KFC would do fizzy drinks because obviously their specialty is completely in something else, all right? And you can't foresee Coca-Cola doing chips or doing French fries and that type of stuff. But it's a complimentary service. I mean, you can't chew KFC without having a fizzy drink, all right? Well, people do, but that's only when you don't have money. Okay, so you decide to cut down on your but that's the reality. So they are in a relationship, horizontal relationship. They are in a complementary relationship. So one supplies the other. Of course, KFC doesn't supply fries to what do you call, to Coca-Cola, because they don't have eatery outlets. But Yes, that's a fantastic example, Gotcha. Thanks for that. Amazing one. Who else? Emmanuel.
Sir, actually, a question. Sir, in relation to what Gospel said.
Emmanuel says, yeah, KFC and Verna Water. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, great. Yeah, we're listening.
Sir, if you go back to what the gentleman asked initially, would you consider KFC and Coca-Cola, although they are in the same food industry, but are they indirect? Are they horizontal in any way? I mean, you even said you could have KFC without even having Coke, and you can have Coke without having KFC.
Yeah.
And so where would
that's only when you are broke. You know, that's only when you are broke that you have KFC without Coke. I mean, not necessarily Coke, but fizzy drink, isn't it, Benjamin? I mean, let's be frank.
That's very true, sir.
If you have the money, why would you say you want to eat Coca-Cola, eat KFC without the fizzy drink? It's only when you want to manage your resources. You know?
So I was asking because you see most of the examples you gave initially, the connection came from referrals. So for example, the airline you gave, when the site was put, they referred you to a sibling company.
Yeah.
So the relationship between Coca-Cola and KFC, where would the referral come in?
Yeah, that's on your right side. You know, on the right side, I don't know whether I think you'll be on your right side. You see the diagram, you know, the framework. The horizontal relationships include relationship with competitors and with non-competitors. And we're saying that when it comes to horizontal relationships, it's mostly relationships of equals, all right, but not necessarily in the same industry. And, you know, relationship with people in the same industry, and again, of equal, you know, capacity or of equal character. Are you with me? So the first example that we gave, as in KLM and Air France, these are, are you following?
Yes, sir.
In the same industry. Now, the other one to your right, that is the indirect or non-competing, you know, horizontal relationships, are relationships of complementary character. So those companies are also bosses in their own fields, but they can supply you with some component, you know, and that's what we're talking about, like KFC and Coca-Cola or fizzy drinks. You know, what else? You can talk about bread and butter, all right? So let's say there's a joint, one sells bread, and then another company supplies the bread person butter. All right. We only eat raw bread because again it's a resource issue, right? Because if it's not resource issue, you eat bread with something. Yeah, Emmanuel. You know, you eat bread with spread, all right, with let's say granite paste or with who knows lavash curry. Lavash curry. Who knows lavash curry? Benjamin.
So what was the name?
Yeah, lavash curry. You don't know lavash curry, you guys.
No, sir.
I'm not posh crowd. Oh, yeah, it's a cheese. Lavash curry is a cheese. The laughing cow. Charlie, you guys. You see, right now, for Papa like this, you don't go out with any of you. Benjamin, Emmanuel, you know.
Sir.
For Papa, let's hear you. Would you go out with Emmanuel or Benjamin? I mean, levels no day.
Bread and egg. Say, bread and egg is still a combination.
Bread and egg. Oh, come on, bread and egg. I mean, bread
and
egg.
The 80s.
It's for poor boys. I mean, you know, you're supposed to garnish it with the, you know, cheese of some character, all right? Maybe French cheese or Spanish cheese or Wales. You know, Welsh people makes one of the best cheese, right? And then before you put in your, you know, what do you call, your egg, or even the egg, you know, you want to garnish it somehow, you know, make it much more appealing, much more romantic. But bread and egg in there must plan it. If you take a girl out and you just give them bread and egg, I tell you, the relationship won't last. All right. Okay. Anyway, just by the way. All right. Great. So I'm sure you can understand the point we're making. So the relationship with other indirect competitors, to provide with complementary services. So you can even talk about maybe an NGO that actually does some work in humanitarian interventions. Okay. So the firm can actually contract this NGO to do some community interventions for them. All right. Some community interventions for them. Okay. So you could actually ask the NGO to say, oh, we want to reach out to a certain community. All right. And because they have community engagement experience, the firm may end up, contracting that service for them. And that's certainly indirect or non-competing, horizontal relationships. All right. So you get the idea.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right. So as we said, so we have vertical versus horizontal relationships, partnership cost, partnership benefits. And as I mentioned, usually when it comes to the cost, especially of a horizontal nature, you're most likely, it's possible you can lose clients or you can lose, relationships, especially in the case of those that are of competing character. Of course, those that are of, non-competing character, there's nothing to lose here, because I don't think Coca-Cola feels any threat when they're supplying, what do you call, um, uh, KFC with bottles of Coke to go with, what do you call KFC, or vice versa. I don't think so. But for, those that are into that kind of company, like hotels to hotels, airlines to airlines, maybe automobile to automobile in terms of servicing capacity, there could be a threat, and as we've seen, there's quite a lot of legal cases between Apple and Samsung. They've been in court several times, and depending on where they go to court, one wins. That's so funny of that. When Apple takes Samsung to court in the US, who wins? Apple wins, right? When Samsung takes Apple to court in I think South Korea, Samsung wins. And that can tell you the political nature of these, kind of relationships, because the countries benefit, all right? So South Korea wouldn't want Samsung to collapse, and so they will make sure that the case is tilted towards, Samsung in South Korea. Then Apple will take Samsung to a US court and they'll go and win the case there. It's funny. So these are some of the costs. I mean, the other, obviously the other cost in terms of non-competing would perhaps be a financial one or a material one. Of course, the benefits are enormous. I'm sure you guys can actually read most of that. So vertical relationships, as we're talking about, all parts of supply chain, component supplies, that is OEM. When you hear OEM in international marketing, I think you guys might have been introduced to that. It's called, it is known as original equipment manufacturers, where firms would actually contract, other firms like what Kantanka does to supply them with some critical components, that they cannot manufacture, or it's less costly for them to manufacture than they do. And then of course, manufacturers and intermediaries. Whereas, organization on the same firm level, of course, we're talking about horizontal, competitors like Apple and Samsung, affiliate partners for mutual benefit. Okay. Obviously, benefits are low transaction cost, assurance of supply, improved coordination, etc. All right. External partnerships, as we refer to, a majority of times is the partnerships with regulatory agencies. All right. Regulatory agencies, multi-regional, multinational agencies, mostly of governance character. Okay. So we're talking about, the relationships with government institutions, the regulators, like environmental protection, EPA, for example, or standard authorities, all right, to check standards of food, standards of product and services. You're talking about the tax man, all right, the taxes, GRA, Ghana Revenue Authority. Those relationships, as what we're talking about. But of course, You can actually, read most of them. Okay. Any questions or contributions? Any questions or contributions? Let me just, yeah, Emmanuel.
So the external relationship, would you consider them a relationship or more like a regulatory body? Because
Yeah, it's
on
good. Yeah, it's good you said that. I mean, it's profound you said that because, and that's the thinking of the traditional marketing. All right, in traditional marketing, we didn't see the interaction. Let's use the word engagement or interaction. All right, we didn't see the interaction with these bodies as a relationship because it was more an adversarial. And when I say adversarial, you can understand it's more antagonistic engagement. Hey, the taxman is coming, and we have a posture, all right, that we demonstrate to institutions like that, institutions that actually obliged us or enforces us to do some things, all right. So in the traditional marketing sense, they were not relational. We were not in relationship with them, okay. But in relationship marketing, we do not see institutions in an antagonistic way, all right. We see institutions for more of relational because after all, the tax man wants you to comply in order that your services would not come to a halt. You understand that? You get it? So that type of engagement or that type of what do you call not collaboration, but that type of engagement must be seen from a relational perspective. So in this manner, you're always on top of knowing what a taxman has in their belt. So you're checking up with them. What's the new tax law? What's the new regulation? What's the new this? What's the new that? Now, that kind of relationship would ensure that you're always compliant with your legal frameworks, all right? You're always on top of your tax obligations or your legal obligations. But in traditional marketing, we saw these institutions as adversarial. We didn't actually see them as a relational, perspective. Emmanuel, are you following? You understand it?
Yes, I do so.
Yeah. Do you guys get it? Any concern or any question from anyone? Okay. So yeah, so you see those relationships as what do you call relationships and not as an adversarial engagement. Okay. All right. Now there is the usual, marketing plan that is actually outlined, the SOSTAC planning model. I'm sure you've done that in your principles of marketing or any of the modules, the fundamental modules. But typically, this is how your marketing plan is. If you haven't actually learned that, maybe you can take a clue from that. In every field of marketing, whether you're a relationship manager or whatever, you have to kickstart with a plan. You always have to have your marketing plan with you. All right. And the marketing plan is set out in this framework where we call it SOSTAC, all right? SOSTAC is trying to simplify the spine of the marketing plan, maybe how to put the marketing plan together. You should know the acronym SOSTAC, all right? SOSTAC means the S is situation, all right? Situation analysis, all right? That's what the S is for. The first S is for situation analysis. The O is objectives, all right? So when you're setting out the marketing plan, you have to analyze the situation that you're in. So in terms of relationship, what is your relationship with company A? What is your relationship with company B, etc. All right. So you have to set out the entire relationship, scope, the situation. And then O is objectives. All right. So you have to outline your objectives. And we say the objectives must be what? KISS. All right. Keep it simple and what? Smart. All right. So you set out your objectives, for the plan. And the other S is strategy. All right. So you set out your strategic outlook. How are you going to approach a relationship? All right. Or how are you going to approach your marketing, plan? So you set out your strategies in the S. The T is tactics, all right? And you know, tactics is always the 4 Ps, all right? Now, obviously, when it comes to strategy, I'm sure you guys know, what frameworks we use for strategies, all right? You're looking at the Ansoff matrix, you're looking at Porter's, what do you call, what's the name? There's 5 forces, the 5 forces. Of course, your SWOT will come to your situation, isn't it? SWOT is where, situation is where you use your SWOT, your situation analysis. That's where you use your strength, your weakness, your threat, etc. Right? Then, of course, your tactics, because it's a relationship marketing, you go beyond your 4 Ps, all right? And you do your 7 Ps or your Cs, for example, right? And then action. Action is where you set out your timetable, your action plan. Who does what, in what, channel, or what channel, etc. And then, of course, your control mechanisms. How you're going to do measurement, how you're going to report, what, measurement criteria. Have you heard about the balance scorecard? You probably have heard it in HR. Have you heard about balance scorecard? None of you? Okay. So in the control, part of it, of your marketing plan, you have to set out how you're going to measure performance. So you're talking about your ROIs, I know, say you haven't heard. Okay. Yeah, sometimes do self-tutoring, all right? Okay. So control is where you do your measurement, you measure and look at return on investment. And if there are some, what do you call, implementation barriers, maybe barriers, things that actually stopped you from achieving some objectives, then you have to put in control measures. So usually we use also what we call the scenarios, what if scenarios, right? I'm sure you guys have heard what if scenarios before. So what if this doesn't go well? And one typical example is what we're facing now, COVID, COVID situation, or the lockdowns. So what if there's a lockdown? Then you have to. There's something called, business continuity. Have you heard it before? Huh?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, yeah, Emmanuel, good. So business continuity plans, or some organizations call them contingencies, etc. So control is where you display or you put in those things. So just in case there is there's a hitch on your usual operations, what is the continuity plan that you have? You have to actually kick in. So the control is where you use that. So don't forget, if you haven't done it in your principles of marketing or your fundamentals of marketing, don't forget, framework for building or designing or developing your marketing plan is called SOSTAC, right? SOSTAC, and it's a simple abbreviation for situation analysis, objective set, strategy development, tactics, action, and control. I'll give you one typical experience. I remember my first job, and it happened to be my national service as well. We went to this company. The company was looking for a marketing officer. And we're young, just like you at the time, level 400. Then when we went to the company, they called us for interview. We were 15, very, very competitive. Apparently, the key question the owner was looking for is who can develop them a marketing plan. You can't hear me. Malik, it looks like your network. Can you hear me now? Malik, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, you can. All right. So the company was looking for, to develop, obviously, a marketing plan for this, for operations. So everybody, I mean, people go, I don't remember which level, I mean, which number I was, but I was not the first or second. I was further down the line. So when it got to my turn and the CEO, who was a lady, asked me, can I develop a 5-year marketing plan? I mean, I'm sure at that level, you remember you are in level 400, just about finishing school and then doing your service. And you saw an ad asking for marketing officers and you apply. And your first question was, develop a 5-year marketing plan. I'm telling you, it's not a kidding. I mean, when she said that, I immediately went blank first before I started thinking through. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do it. And the lady went on, I mean, it was herself and her husband and another person. I mean, they are the directors of the business. And then she asked me, okay, so I should talk her through developing a marketing plan. I'm telling you, it was so stuck that saved me. Immediately, so stuck came to my head, and I said, well, firstly, you identify your situation. And I talked about how to identify the situation in terms of political, legal, in terms of economic situations, in terms of, what do you call it, social, cultural issues around the market, in terms of technology in the market. Then, as I was mentioning them, they were nodding. But you see, it was coming to me because I have a box, and the box is a framework. All right, I have a framework in my head. Then I move to objectives, and I tell them, objective, you're looking at your sales objectives. You're in terms of sales objectives, you're looking at volumes and values, of the objectives. You're looking at, your promotional objectives. You're looking at. Then the woman got excited now because literally I gave them a marketing plan framework there and then. Look, after my interview, and I'm not bragging, all right? Right after my interview, she said they should stop the interview. I should be given the appointment. And that's how I got my first job. And that was my first job. I've done internships with PCC, which is Paper Convention Company. Those of you who are from Takrady, but you are millennials, so you may not have heard PCC. PCC where I did my internships and things like that. At one point, my boss said, we don't advertise toilet roll because we used to produce toilet roll. And it was funny. I still remember, but I laughed. I said, well, you think you would advertise toilet roll. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, so that's how I got my job. And can you imagine when we were in school, I was a marketing manager for a travel company, still were in school. And immediately after school, I submitted my national service forms to the letter to the company. So instead of leaving or instead of they putting me on national service, I was actually working and as a national service at the same time. So I was paid fully as a worker and I was paid my national service allowances. So I always say that your best thing to do is to memorize. Of course, it's root. You may say that it's root in a lot learning, but you have to, as a marketer, you have to know your frameworks. All right. Like for example, what framework do you use for situation analysis? And somebody said SWOT. All right. Fantastic. So you use your SWOT at the same time pest analysis. So SWOT is looking at your strength, your weakness, threat in the market, etc. SWOT, what we call pest is looking at, the situations in terms of macro and micro. All right. So you're looking at micro level, which is pest. You're looking at micro level, which is SWOT, and then of course the 7 C's. All right. Who knows 7 C's? The 7 C's: structure. What do you call? What's the 7 C's? Do you know the content of it? Style, organizational structure. You have to have, is it 7 S's? Sorry. Mackenzie 7 S's. I said 7 S's. 7 S's. My apologies for that. All right. So you have to know these frameworks, by heart. Now that helps you to develop anything that you want to do. Just like your 4 P's, 4 C's, 7 S, 7 P's. You have to know almost all the marketing frameworks. So that comes in handy. So that's how I got my job. And after some time, they transferred me to South Africa, and the rest of it is history, right? So know that. No, it makes it easier. Okay. So as you can see, that's the planning process over there, the marketing planning process. So you have your mission statement, corporate objectives, marketing audit, SWOT analysis, assumptions, marketing objectives, etc. You want to apply the Emmanuel, you want to apply the CITO is no longer, I don't know whether some of you know CITO. It's called Student and Youth Travel Organization. Is on the what's the name? Ring Road, opposite the police station, the Central Police Station. That's my first company, and I loved it because that's where I started traveling. So I will link up, please. Okay, Benjamin, I hear you. So from CITO Ghana, they transferred me to almost about 8 African countries. Going to Nigeria. I worked in Nigeria before. In fact, when I went to Nigeria, I was using the most flashy mobile phones you can ever think of. I was using Motorola StarTAC, and my boss in Nigeria didn't have that. He had a very big phone. So when I got to Nigeria, that was 1999, 2000. What is the national service? Okay. Someone should explain to Jane, right? Yeah. Is it compulsory? Yeah, national service is not compulsory, but you've got to do it. You can go and come back and still do it. Right. So someone has to explain to Jane about national service. Yeah. All right. So yeah, when I went to Nigeria, I was using the flashiest phone, Motorola StarTAC, and my boss in Nigeria didn't have that. And so he was parading me around to his friends. He took me to his friend and said, "Look at this is Omagana. Look at the kind of phone he's holding." It was so funny, but I loved it. But the place that I loved very much was, I think, Cote d'Ivoire. Yeah, Ivory Coast. I loved Ivory Coast. It was nice. Only that my girlfriend was speaking French. I had a French girlfriend and I couldn't speak French. So we used to communicate with sign language. That's one of the funny, the fun memories that I have. Yeah. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. She was called Marie. Yeah. I couldn't speak French because my counterpart in Cote d'Ivoire, Teopini, he's now food and agriculture, boss he used to be in what do you call Central African Republic. He was my partner, like he was the marketing officer in Cote d'Ivoire, and I was here. So he came to understudy me, and I went to Cote d'Ivoire where we were supposed to work together. So when we go anywhere, I speak and he speaks the French and interpret. Then I met this girl, Marie, and she couldn't speak English. The Teopini said, "Oh, what would you do?" I said, "Well, we'll still date." So I used to go there with Teopini connected. We'll go there. I speak and she will explain. Later he said he won't go again. He said, "Yeah, you go. I'm not going. I'm not following you. You just go." I said, "Well, I'll go." I just go there. We chat. I do sign language. When I say something, she responds. Yeah, it was fun. Anyway, thanks, guys. Let's see. Okay, so I was going to introduce you to, what's the time? What time are we supposed to finish? 9:30. But what's the time? Okay. All right, so I was going to introduce you to key account management. It's one session that we brought it into the relationship marketer. It's a higher level of RM. That's, the simplistic understanding of it. That every relationship, manager or a relationship marketer must understand that, as we discussed earlier on, you do not actually, expend your effort, equally on the relationship. Some relationships are of certain importance, all right? So I'm sure you've heard about the Pareto's, 80-20 rule, that 20% or 80% of your profitability may come from only the 20% of customers, yeah? The rest of it obviously could also be strategic because they may support you with your daily, activities. So you've got to identify your key clients, and then have a relationship, a certain kind of relationship with them. And with key account, by establishing a key client, you use certain frameworks. Sometimes you use growth. Sometimes you use what you call the strategic nature of the business. So many other factors that you use. And as we said, you do not have the capacity to develop intimacy for everybody. All right, you only have a limited capacity for intimacy. Each of us has many friends, but we only have the capacity to devote real quality time to a handful. And that's why we marry. You choose one person and that's it. That's a key client, all right? You can't expend your emotive or your heart for everybody else. You have to have one person to develop intimacy. And that's the idea of key account. Out of your 100 customers, which one of them are of strategic importance to you? And that strategic importance is not cast in stone. You as an organization have to outline what is meant by strategic importance. Is it in terms of cash, i.e., the value that the company gives you or the client gives you? Maybe they buy 100,000 bags of cement every year. So are you using that as a measure? So you're saying that all your key clients must contribute maybe 50,000 cedis a year. So whoever actually buys from you but does not buy up to 50,000 a year, they are not considered as your key client. So you use that as a measure and select the top up to 50,000. So if you have 100 customers and only 2 are within that framework, that's what you use as your key client, all right? Sometimes companies may use volume, 100 kilos. Whoever buys up to 100 kilos is a key client. Sometimes companies may use other strategic measures, for example, future growth. So they're looking at IT firms, for example, or firms that have capacity to grow in future, all right? Or they are startups, but they have certain technological competences. Currently, I don't know, how many of you know Clubhouse? Did I ask you the other time? Do you know Clubhouse? Clubhouse, how many of you know Clubhouse? It's an app. It's not a joint. Yeah, it's an app. Okay, I've heard it. Mimi, you've heard Clubhouse. You are using an iPhone. You've heard Clubhouse, but you're not there. I've been seeing you there. Okay, Patience, you've been seeing me on Clubhouse, right? Oh, you're on Clubhouse, Patience. Okay, yeah. So iPhone users, yes, it's for iPhone. Well, it's not for iPhone users. Okay, Patience. So when you see me, say hi, but you never said hi when you saw me. Okay. Oh, only iPhone. Currently, is in the what do you call it? Is it beta or beta version? Beta version, all right. And they're testing it, and that's why it's for iPhone users. They're testing it on iOS. Yeah. Now, Emmanuel, how do you pronounce it? Do you say beta or beta?
The beta.
Beta version, yeah. I went to say COVID in England, and my son was laughing at me. He said they don't say they don't say COVID. They don't pronounce it COVID. It's COVID. Then I said, oh, really? Sorry. Then I said that there's no R in the CO after the CO. There's no R after the O. So it's COVID, not COVID. I said, okay, yes, sir. I'm sorry. So he kept laughing. So whenever I'm on phone, and I said, hey, this COVID. He said, Daddy, it's not COVID, it's COVID. Charlie, and I said, look, go and listen to Ghana. Ghana, you go hear more variations, yeah? I'm telling you, the media people, they are challenged. They are all saying COVID, COVID. Me too, I go English, I say COVID. They say, hey, don't say that here. People laugh. It's not COVID. There's no I in there. It's COVID. I said, yeah. Yeah, so, okay, yeah, so COVID, not COVID. Please don't go and say COVID anywhere. You can say it only in Africa. Yeah, but me, I accept corrections. Emmanuel is African parent, do accept corrections for. Yeah. All right. Okay. So you can only develop intimacy with one person. All right. So that's the idea of rationale behind the Calm. Okay, so we're saying that it's an approach aimed at building a portfolio of loyal key accounts by offering them on a continuing basis a product or service package tailored to their individual needs. So the idea is that when you have key clients and the organization is in trouble, for example, now that because of COVID, you're going to have lockdowns. The idea is when you have key clients and the economy is slumped, all right? Now, there's a slump in the economy. These key clients can actually come to your aid by offering to even buy in future or buy for future, right? So they do, purchases that can actually kind of protect you from the economic slump, all right? So that's the idea of key client, how to make sure that you can protect yourself from others. So the influences for the key clients, we said the conditions are that when there's economic meltdown or downturn, emergence of new technology, or competition, these key clients would actually protect you, all right? That's why you need to establish key account. So when there's new technology and you don't have the technology and everybody else is moving to the company that has the new technology, your key clients can give you a moratorium period, a period that will say, we'll still deal with you until you retool to have your new technology, all right? Even when competitors are coming in and offering them better prices, they will say, now we have a relationship with this company, so we're not moving, all right? And then of course, when there's economic meltdown, like, the credit crunch that we had, key clients will be behind you, all right? And that's the rationale. That's the reason why you have to, choose key clients. So that's why when you marry and you have a downturn, your partner is there for you, right? But if you're not married and you have only girlfriends, you know what it means, right? My friend, your pocket is not up to bottoming yet, so they can leave you, right? But when you're married, yeah, key clients. So the marriage still goes on for better, for worse, all right? That's the idea of Mimi. Yeah, that's the idea of key clients, marriage key client. Yeah, bottoming, yeah. Why stick by you? I don't get that logic. It's not like the man or the woman wants money, but if you're not resourceful, how do you maintain somebody? Okay, it's common logic. Yeah. Okay. So again, customer sizes and nature. Okay. So again, key clients based on another condition that sometimes will form key client because of the global nature of the company. All right. The company is a global firm. What it means is that they're exposed to different, environment and different quality levels. So if you don't establish key relationship with them to understand their nature and their needs very well, you'll be treating them just like you're treating Ghanaian companies. They will leave. Remember, global firms actually have, taste for quality. You don't expect a company that actually, trades in Japan to be of the same quality mindset as a company that trade in Ghana. I mean, that company that trade in Ghana, hello, there's not much of pressures on them. Their standards, they can compromise standards. Unfortunately, that's the situation we have in our country, right? A company that trades in Japan has a completely different attitude to standards, to ethics, all right? So they have ethical philosophy that actually goes beyond madness, all right? Everything has to be ethical. Everything has to be of a particular standard, all right? So if you have these two companies in your books, you cannot treat them the same way. And that's why the global firm may be a key client, in order that you can assign them a special attention to understand their way of life and make sure that you're giving them what is required, all right? And then, of course, you have to allocate, key account facility satisfaction to them. Okay. Again, what influences key account? We've said supply side capacity. Sometimes you do not have the capacity, which we have discussed earlier on, why we keep some friends as key, is because you do not obviously have the capacity to satisfy everybody. So if your capacity is 100, units, 100 units a day, your key client may get 60% of that, and the rest of it is shared by the other. I mean, there's a scenario that's playing out in what do you call the vaccine, corona vaccine supplies. I don't know whether you guys have been following international news, although it may not be the same case, but there's a feeling from EU that UK is getting special treatment by the vaccine producers because they're getting almost all what they requested for. Meanwhile, AstraZeneca is saying that they could only supply few to Europe, not the entire thing that they requested. And Europe is furious, all right? And they're demanding that the company comes to fulfill their obligations. Meanwhile, UK is getting full supplies. So that actually sounds to me as a key client here. Why? Because obviously the AstraZeneca one has Oxford, a relationship. I think the Oxford University, is the leading researcher for the AstraZeneca, vaccine. They did the testing, etc. And I'm sure, obviously, their intellectual, what do you call, intellectual properties in there. All right. So because of that, it looks like there's a special treatment for UK, and the rest of the world. And it's a battle now. I mean, even the EU is considering, putting out some trade barriers, etc. And they're in battle, And that's the mindset of a key account. Key account always gets what they want, all right? And then the other, companies, get. So it's like having a steady partner, a steady mate, all right? And thinking that, oh, maybe this weekend we'll pass somewhere, and the boyfriend calls, all right? You know your stand. You are just a steady partner. The boyfriend is calling. So there could be a switch, or your steady partner, the girlfriend is calling, there could be a switch. That's the idea of a key account. When the key person calls, obviously the subsidiary has to give way. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the idea of key client. All right. Anyway, any questions or contributions? I'm sure the rest of it you can actually read through. Any questions or contributions? Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll be done with this. Then we'll go back to the quantitative side of things. Okay. All right. And as I said, the what do you call it? The simulation? I have to send you the simulation link. Mimi, I think I sent you the simulation video. Did I?
Yes, I forwarded it to the class. I don't know if it's that one.
Have you guys been going over? Okay. Mimi, I have to check with you what I sent. I think I had a problem with my phone. My original phone is dead.